Hello and welcome to the 11th episode of Planetos Podcast, a podcast dedicated to the fans of George R.R. Martin's A Song of Ice and Fire and HBO's A Game of Thrones. Spoiler warning, the show will cover all material, including the main series, Duncan Egg, the novellas, The World of Ice and Fire, quotes and interviews by George, and episodes of the TV show and its commentaries and bonus material. I'm one of your hosts, Brett. You can find me on Twitter at Homelypillow.
And I'm your other host, Travis. You can find me at Sir_Travis on Twitter. We hope you enjoy today's show.
Also, if you'd like to hear some possible exciting news, stick around until the end. It has nothing to do with Halloween, but it will be at the end of this episode.
This is our Halloween special. And as I said on Twitter, it's our Spooktacular, which is just a very corny term to use. But what we're going to do here tonight, and we hope you're listening at night, because you should be listening at night for Halloween.
Or at least when it's dark. If it's not night, if it's not night, go in your closet or something.
Yeah. I'm going to have a lot to talk about tonight, specifically about Halloween movies and,
I can't wait.
Scary moments, and something that Lindsay and I are watching right now that I'm going to highly recommend to everyone. But we want to take a deep dive into the dark weirwood net, the dark recesses of Planetos. Now, there's a lot of dark moments in A Song of Ice and Fire and George's world, not just in terrible moments of death and whatever, but scary moments too. So, Halloween comes every year. We're not going to be able to cover everything tonight, but I think we've selected some significant moments for us that when we were reading or watching the show, we took a step back and they kind of scared us for the characters and everything. So, we're going to get into the shadowy histories and the haunting tales here tonight. And we're going to add a little splash of real world parallels, because George is a horror fan. He's a huge fan of H.P. Lovecraft. And obviously he laces the story with references and references to other authors, references to real world events. So, we're going to first explore whether Westeros has a holiday equivalent to Halloween. And we're going to find out that Halloween is a very interesting holiday in our own society. Second, we're going to talk about some of those parallels to monsters and creatures and events that George has embedded in his story. And then finally, we're going to discuss some of the scarier moments, scarier stories, scarier chapters, episodes, whatever, from A Song of Ice and Fire and Game of Thrones. They can be in-world legends told to or by the characters. And obviously some frightening moments and chapters that have left an indelible mark on us as readers. But first, before we dive right into that, let's talk about Halloween. Halloween is a fun holiday. If you're a kid, you get to dress up, you get to go from house to house, you get great candy. The part where you get back home and you have all this candy and you realize you have to eat it, or you want to eat it, and then you are suffering from a sugar high, and all that is not fun. But the fun part is scaring yourself and dressing up and I just like this time of year as well. Like, I like the crispness in the air. I like the leaves turning and falling. It's just a fun time of the year. But nothing says Halloween more to me than as an adult than watching a scary movie. And so that's the first thing I want to talk about here today. I want to talk about, what is your favorite scary movie?
I have to turn this interrogation back on you. Are you Michael Myers? Okay. because you love, you know, Halloween a little too much, and I'm scared.
I do.
No, I'm just kidding.
You're scared.
I'm just kidding. So I really like Slither, and I cannot tell you exactly what it's about because it's been so long. I watched some, but I just remember like that's the one that like really disturbed me. But what I don't like, and I'll tell you what I don't like, is like the Saw movies. I don't like torture movies. Like I don't like that kind of, that doesn't interest me like at all. So when you have a movie like Slither, and I watch the scenes and I understand why. I was like, ugh, like they're disgusting. But they draw me in because you know, it's about like this alien parasite and they infect people and all the scenes are just really terrible, but it's not, you know, the story's not great, but it's not Saw, you know, it's not I'm gonna torture you. It's not Passion of the Christ type stuff where it's like, you know, it's just all torture, you know, and you're just like, you know, I can't do it, you know, but it's horrific enough to where it makes me like, cause I cannot stand torture movies, but I'm like, but I want to keep watching, you know, it makes me like, you know, cringe, but I, you know, have my eye peeked open. That's that type of movie. And the other movie is The Shrine. Still not.
I've not heard of it, so I'm looking forward to you talking about it. And,
okay, I'm not gonna spoil The Shrine because yet again I don't think it's. I looked the movie reviews up before I shared them. They're all 6 out of 10, but. But the shrine, I'm not even gonna go into it. But they go and look at this shrine, and then they become, or one of them becomes possessed, and you know this town attacks them. It's very predictable. Stop looking up reviews if you're looking up reviews. I see you.
I'm looking at not reviews, but what it's about.
Well, yeah. I don't want to get like I don't want you to get spoiled, but I mean you can. I mean it's whatever, but I don't know. Like it's really cool because well now I'm gonna spoil it because I was gonna talk about
That's fine. I have so much on my DVR and so much on Netflix and Hulu and Amazon that I'll never get to, so I probably won't get to the shrine. So go ahead.
Okay. So anything religious though, demons, anything like that, like interests me. Like it scares me too. Like it scares the shit out of me. Like it shouldn't, but it does. Like the body snatching thing, the possession thing. I don't actually believe it, but I'm so interested in that kind of horror. I'm not going to get into it anymore because I don't want to spoil fans. But watch The Shrine. Tell us what you think on Twitter or Facebook or something.
Like I have similar religious beliefs, but demonic possession, demons, the occult, it all fascinates me, but it also scares the fuck out of me.
Yeah, and that's why I like it. Yes.
I just it's unnerving. And it makes me I probably come down, we don't want to talk about religion here. I probably come down somewhere around agnostic, that there's a lot in the world
that's where
I can't imagine that there's nothing after this, but I also can see how humans got to where they are based on natural selection and evolution and all that. Like but it's just hard for me. So that's why I usually describe myself as agnostic in my religious beliefs.
I'm the same way. I don't think anyone's stupid for because it scares me to death. Like what's after life? I mean, here's a horror theme. Like I don't know what's happening after life, That's pretty
Right.
horrifying.
Yep.
And that's,
Yep. The one thing that does make me think there's a heaven and hell, or karma or something cosmic, is there's a lot of people in this world that need to be punished. I'm sorry, but they need to be punished. I'm not one of them. But whoever's listening out there. So let's get back to scary movies, because so I am a huge horror fan. I like scary movies. I like to be scared. My wife does not like going to the theater with me to watch scary movies. Slowly tense up and start saying, no, don't do that. Why are you going there? Why would you do that? No, shut that door. Why are you going down that hallway? And actually, so I'm listening to one of the podcasts I'm listening to right now, because I'm a huge fan of Halloween, the movie.
Yes. Okay.
Original, and I'm really looking forward to.
Yeah, me too.
The new one. Yeah, I'm ready. I want to go this weekend and see it. But so I'm listening to this podcast called Halloween Unmasked, and Amy Nicholson, who's a pretty famous podcaster and film critic, she's got interviews with everyone. She's got John Carpenter. She's got Jamie Lee Curtis. She's got a lot of the filmmakers. She's got sociologists and psychologists, criminologists. It's just fascinating, and it's fascinating from the standpoint that, and I'm prepare for a soliloquy here, because I'm going to talk a lot about scary movies and.
No, you're good.
My history with them, and obviously, please jump in here, Tom.
The
thing about Halloween the movie, and I'm really liking where the sequel is going, because some of the Halloween sequels of the past are they're dumb. They became too.
I heard they threw most of the.
It's all gone.
Yeah. Like, they threw a lot of the stuff out. I mean, there might be a few that are.
Here's what they do. It's a direct sequel to the original Halloween.
Okay. What
they've done is they've taken some elements from all the other movies, and they've either like there's a part. It's in a trailer, so it's not a spoiler. A group of girls are walking in one of the trailers, and one of them says, "I heard Laurie Strode is Michael's sister," which is a premise of many of the sequels. And they say, oh no, that was just a story someone made up. So they've taken some of those elements that they want to kind of dismiss and thrown them in there. But then I hear they've taken, some of the better parts and they've used them. So I'll be very interested to see how they kind of lace those what the sequels laid as groundwork for the series into the new one. But I'm very excited about it, because Michael Myers is an unstoppable force. I mean, he's shot, he's stabbed, he's beat up multiple, and he just keeps coming. And I think that's what I really like about him as a villain. It's kind of like Jaws. The shark just keeps coming, because that's what it does. Its natural instinct is to eat and attack and swim, and that's frightening, because that's real.
Yeah.
Saw is not real. I mean, yes, people get tortured, but someone in a little clown mask, that just doesn't scare me. I'm like you. It's stupid.
It's very psychologically damaging, because like when a big ass motherfucker's walking towards you and you're running 30 miles away from him, and then he jumps around a corner and stabs you. Like, I mean, I think that has more to do with like psychological problems.
Yes. And it's an innate fear in humans that, if you watch the original Halloween, Michael Myers does not run.
Yeah.
Just slumbers. And you can outrun him, but and it's the reason that the music is so important in Halloween.
I love the music.
That I love it. It's kind of just like this unstoppable force that is going to catch up to you. And what the Halloween Unmasked podcast talks about is that the music itself is done in 5/4 time, which is a very uncommon uncommon beat.
I believe that's actually usually a blues beat, the 5/4 time.
Really? Okay.
I think. Don't
the only other
but
noticeable or memorable TV or movie theme that uses 5/4 time is Mission Impossible. And so in the podcast they're talking about, you know, when you instantly hear both of those themes, you know what's going on, but you recognize the material, Halloween or Mission Impossible.
Mm.
But there's something mysterious about them that, you know, Mission Impossible, it's a spy thriller, but Halloween, Michael Myers is coming. It's just this, and it builds and it tenses, and you know, it's a creepy theme, and I think that's what's really, that's one of the more powerful elements of that movie. You know, some other favorite scary movies of mine, and this is a terrible story, terrible for me. How can you not say The Exorcist is?
No, I mean, it's got. I even thought about it, but it's been so long since I've watched it.
Yeah.
Like, I just remember the throwing up scene and being like horrified, like trying to watch it.
Yeah.
But it's one of those things. It's those possession things.
Well, it's a little girl too. I mean, that's frightening that, you know, something can infest this little girl.
Yeah.
But I first watched The Exorcist when a babysitter made me watch it. So I would have been, I don't know, 7 or 8, somewhere through there. It freaked me the fuck out. Like, what?
Yes.
Who shows that to a 7 or 8-year-old? So even when it's on, I mean, it was just on, I think it was last weekend. Actually, Lindsay had gone to the grocery store, and
I still can't watch
it. It was on, and I was like, well, I have to watch it now. Even though I'm like, nope. And I actually showed it a few years ago to some of my cousins who hadn't seen it and are deeply religious. That was an experience because they were like, this is terrible. Like, oh my God, why would they film stuff like this? Why would they? I'm like, it's a movie. So kind of like, even though it scares me, I was kind of like, this is a movie. You understand that?
Yeah.
Have you seen Rosemary's Baby?
I have not.
Okay. All right. You need to watch it.
Okay. I'm
it's
ready.
One of those,
I'm ready for the scary movies.
One of those. Yeah, you need to watch it. It's a great older film. But it just, the first time you watch it and you don't know what's happening at the end, you know, and that's the way the whole movie is. There's just kind of this darkness and tenseness to it that all of a sudden, like, at the end, it hits you and you're like, holy shit. And it's definitely in the vein of like one of those, I think it was done in either late 60s or early 70s. But it's one of those films that are like very, I don't want to say it's a B movie from like the 50s.
Yeah.
But it's definitely, you can tell it's definitely influenced by that. It's very smart, it's slick horror film, but it's one of those that just hits you at the end. It's kind of like a Twilight Zone episode.
Oh, okay.
That at the end you just, everything kind of falls apart and you're like, oh, well, you know, that's what this is about.
Well, see, now you made me like, I feel like I undersold my scary movies that I like. Now I need to now I need to explain. Okay, so Slither, like Slither is like one of those B movies. Like,
it has Nathan Fillion in it, right?
I'm pretty.
Yeah,
I'm not gonna.
I'm pretty sure.
I think you looked it up before I did, but I think.
Well, I looked it up to try and remember what it was about, and I do remember seeing it, like at the theater.
Slither's sick. It's a sick movie. It's like the graphics are just disgusting, but it really is about like alien parasites. Which so I don't know if you saw my Twitter thing about about my whole process of going to see Venom.
Mm.
I went to McDonald's one day. I was late for work. I bought I bought a McChicken biscuit and a hash brown. It had a sticker. The hash brown had a sticker on it. I won a $13 movie ticket. And I was like, okay, that's awesome. So then I was like, I'm not going alone. I have to, wait. So I waited 2 weeks for my brother to get off work and go with me. And then my sister ended up going with me. And she didn't even want to see the movie because I showed her the trailer and she's like, ew, I don't want to see Venom. Like, what is this? But me, my brother, and my sister all go see Venom. It's a great movie. It's a good movie. I'm telling you right now, go see Venom. It's a good movie. I'm a huge fan of Tom Hardy. I got sidetracked. But anyway, so
another one of my favorite Halloween movies, and again, when you say a Halloween movie or a scary movie, it doesn't have to be set on Halloween, doesn't have to be specific to certain genres. I mean, it can be anything that kind of scares you. And so I actually have this argument sometimes with people about Christmas movies or Halloween movies. It's like, well, it's not set at Christmas or it's not set on Halloween. You're like, well, but that doesn't matter. I mean, it's what you think goes with the season. Poltergeist, I absolutely love.
Well, it's a horror movie, yeah.
It's a horror movie, but it's also a very Spielbergian film. Like, he did not direct that, but he was actually the guy who directed it was the guy who created and directed the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. And there are rumors that Spielberg actually directed it, but because of the contract, this guy had to be listed, and there are other people that say no. Spielberg was just kind of on set because of E.T. He didn't have time to direct it, but it has Spielberg all over it because it's set in the suburbs. It's about the family, not about necessarily the ghosts that are haunting the house or the haunted house itself. It is this terror that's infested the suburbs, which Spielberg is very good at displaying in his movies because that's where he grew up, and that's what he knows. But I mean, and Lindsay loves to talk about this because when she was a little girl, she looked exactly like Carol Ann, the little girl that's taken. I mean, just exactly like when we watch like old family videos of her, I'm like, holy shit! Don't get near a TV. Thank God TVs don't at the end of the night just don't play the national anthem and then go to static.
Yeah, don't let her near a statue at all.
Yeah. But one of the better modern horror films, I think, that are set in a haunted house is The Conjuring. I thought that first film was really good. It scared the hell out of me. And again, it's that family dynamic.
Yeah, The Conjuring has to do with the Insidious and that whole sequence of films, right? Does that have to do with that?
Yeah, I don't think it's in the Insidious series. Okay. But I think it has Patrick Wilson in it. They both have Patrick Wilson.
Yeah, I think he plays the same character though.
No.
Oh, it doesn't? Okay.
In The Conjuring, he's a paranormal investigator.
Maybe Annabelle.
That's the one that's related.
Yeah, that's where I get confused. But any of those films, this is why I didn't put it on my favorites list, is because I get confused when I'm watching them. Like, they do creep me out. They creep me out a lot. Yeah. But as far as favorites, I had to put them off to the side because I get confused.
Well, I was just going to say that right now, if The Conjuring, great modern horror film. But if you have Netflix, you have to go right now and watch The Haunting of Hill House.
I don't know anything about that.
It is a great series. So it's based on a book from like the 50s or 60s, which numerous horror writers like Stephen King have called the best horror book ever written, the best haunted house horror book ever written. What's great about this show is it's scary, yes, but it's a lot like Lost to me. It is told over different time periods. It's told, it follows a cast of characters, and the cast of characters are the children that grew up in this house and the way they have been traumatized by the events, the way they remember things differently about what happened. And it's we're about halfway through it, and as I understand it, we're really getting in. The next few episodes are like the pinnacle of greatness of the show, and really are really frightening. But so again, it's kind of like Lost, where it tells the story of the character. The plot is important. The haunting is important. The ghosts are important, but it's not the main focus of the series. The series is the characters, which I think are, it kind of like Game of Thrones. I mean, Game of Thrones has the great combination of both the characters and the plot is interesting. But still the character work in the books and in the series are, the most important thing. It's the characters, and this show is like that. So I would highly recommend it to the listeners or you.
I'm definitely. I mean, anything you throw at me, like I'm highly interested. Okay. But also, I want to throw out there, Stranger Things always.
Yeah.
That's always, one for the good. Family. That's one that and that's Georgia local. My sister served. She works at a Starbucks, so she sees 11. She saw 11 a couple times. Stroll through the,
stroll through the shop.
Yeah. So Pinewood Studios is like 10 minutes from where my sister works, and so she sees like Chris Hemsworth and freaking Yondu. I forget his name. Stroll through her shop, and I'm so
Michael Rooker.
Yeah, I'm
he's great.
Yeah, I'm really jealous.
I love that part in Guardians 2 where Chris Pratt says he looks like Mary Poppins.
Mary Poppins, y'all.
Yeah, he's like, is Mary Poppins cool? And Chris Pratt is like, yeah, Mary Poppins is really cool. He's like, Mary Poppins, yo, he's coming down.
No, me and my sister, we play Fortnite, and I have an umbrella. So instead of a parachute, so I come down, like me and my sister come down on a parachute, and she says that shit all the time. Like she's like, I'm Mary Poppins, y'all.
Well, he was there for Walking Dead as well, because he was in Walking Dead for a few seasons.
Yeah. But she's seen Chris Hemsworth, like all of them, because Pinewood Studios is right there. I've been by Pinewood Studios looking for work. Like I've seen the studio. Like I contemplated like driving in and parking and like trying to like go in. Like, hey, I'm just I'm Brett. You have a lot of Bretts here, I'm sure. Point me to the room.
Yeah. All right, what about zombie films? What's your favorite zombie movie?
Okay, well, I said Slither because that's kind of the alien symbiote one.
Yeah.
But zombie films. Do I have one? Did I put one on here? Because
no,
okay,
I'm just asking.
Yeah, no, I had one because the Crazies, because
Crazies is a zombie film.
Well, it's an advanced form of rabies, and
okay.
And so any kind of zombie film, that's kind of always how I thought, because anytime you hear a case about rabies, and maybe that's where the the thoughts of zombies came from, because you're not dead, but you have like advanced like aggression. You just want to like kill things, and like you can't control stuff. So it's not technically you're dead and you come back, but you're very uncontrollable. And so that's what The Crazies is it starts off like a zombie film, but it turns out military's doing something, you know, they accidentally did something, and something's in the river. I probably just spoiled this, but you know, I think it's been like 10 years, so whatever. It's a really good movie though, and then you won't expect the ending. I guarantee you that. Or you might. I don't know. But depending on I mean, you might. I think in your mind you're like, yeah, I would do that. But at the end of the movie you're like, nah, they would never do that. But in your mind you'd be like, yeah, they would do that. That's how the government would handle that. And that's how it would end. But anyway, so that's a great movie because it's not the typical zombie movie. You think they're zombies, but there's a little something going on. But I don't know. It's cool. It's a good movie. It's a really good movie.
Yeah,
and it's very Walking Dead-ish, but it's not. You get bit, you die. That's not how it works in that. But it is very like first season Walking Dead. But the Hansel and Gretel has always freaked me the fuck out. I mean, like a witch putting shit, because you know I grew up running through the woods. You know, running through the woods, and you know, me and my brother and sister have always ran through the woods, running down to creeks and by ourselves. You know, we'd run out deep into the wilderness. You know. And we probably weren't that far, you know, honestly, but we felt like that. But the Hansel and Gretel thing, that's creepy. And what I think captures that a lot is the Hansel and Gretel witch hunter thing with the guy who plays Hawkeye from.
Oh yeah, and she was in a Bond movie and a couple other movies.
Yeah,
Gemma something. Yeah,
and the guy
like
who plays
brother
Hawkeye,
and sister. They're
Yes. So the opening scene to that movie, watch that scene. I wish there'd be a whole movie of that, because that is a really fucking scary scene. But that's it, because then after that they have all the power. They're killing fucking witches. Yeah. I mean, the movie is kind of cheesy, but it's good. It's good. Yeah. Like, it's fun.
Have you ever seen The Witches, Roald Dahl's The Witches? It's a movie from, I don't know, the early 90s. Angelica Houston. So the premise is there are all these witches in the world and they eat children. And this is a children's book. It's adapted into this film, which is a pretty fun film. I always loved it as a kid. But it was also scary. Are
you talking about there's 3 of them and there's one that's good? That kind of...
The kid goes, it's told from the perspective of this little boy, and he goes with his mother, or his grandmother, sorry, on holiday. It's set in England, so they're like at a hotel by the sea or something, and there's a witches convention, and all the witches wear costumes, so like their actual human skin is a costume, and they take it off, and they're just these horrific, scary looking creatures. But it used to freak me out as a kid. Now it's just kind of a fun film.
Yeah.
So that's a fun little movie.
Well, it reminds me of the
we'll describe it a little bit.
It's the it's got the 3 there's 3 witches. It's Hocus
Pocus.
Yeah, that's what I keep talking about. Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
There's no good Sanderson sister in that.
Yeah.
It's not scary, man, and it's not really that great.
Yeah.
But it's kind of iconic.
But speaking of that though, the Casper movie, I don't know.
Oh, I remember the Casper movie. Yeah.
Okay, but the one with the what's her name? She has big eyes. She was the kid.
Christina Ricci.
Yes, Christina.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the original Casper movie. Yeah.
Okay. Yes, that movie I could watch. Like that's I mean that's not
it's
even.
fun. Yeah,
I
fun.
like that.
Bill Pullman is the father.
Yeah, the Spaceballs dude. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
Star.
Yeah. No, and then I remember when the freaking lawyer went with that stupid greedy bitch, and then he finally like let her roll off the cliff, and then he called her a bitch, and then she came back to haunt him. You know?
Yeah. I'd forgotten that.
Yeah, he regretted calling her a bitch right after that.
Yeah. Yes.
And I remember when he said bitch, I was like, oh, as a kid, like, oh no.
Well, like you said, another scary trope in Halloween movies is the isolation. Like The Shining. The Misery with Kathy Bates. It's a Stephen King novel where her favorite novelist. Jeez.
Yes.
I would even like
that's
consider
Bobby
like
Boucher's mom.
Yeah. Jeez, yes.
Breaking knees.
I would even consider like Alien, a isolations, horror movie. The Evil Dead. There's a lot of humor in The Evil Dead, and there's a lot of just like slapstick, but it is also pretty scary.
Yes.
Blair Witch Project. One of the fun stories about the Blair Witch Project is, so I was, let's see, I think it came out in like 99 or 2000. So I was either a junior in high school or a senior at the time. So I had a friend. Her parents, for the summer, would go to Canada fishing on like long fishing trips. And so she would, stay at home alone. And, we all went to see Blair Witch Project opening weekend. It came out or something like that. And so one of our other friends stayed with her. So me and two other friends went and made like little stick figures and like put them on our front porch and our back porch in the middle of the night. They flipped the fuck out the next morning. They were like, "Oh my god, someone is trying to kill us! There's a witch coming for all this stuff." And we're like, "This is okay." We did that, but it was such a phenomenon when it came out. It was huge.
So
I've gone back and watched it, and it's still kind of creepy at times, but not as scary as watching it in a dark theater.
So you're like you're not that much older than me. Like you're like my aunt's age. So I remember being young, and my aunt was like kind of like she was only 11 years older than me. So you're younger than her. So you're probably right in that age range. But she always wanted to like well, she used to babysit me, but then when I was a little older, she was a teenager, but she did all that. She tried to be that like, I'm a teenager, I'm that cool person, whatever.
Right.
So
I'll let you watch whatever. Do
yeah.
whatever.
So yeah, she was the one I watched Halloween with. Like I was like, she was obsessed with that shit, and I was like, like I had nightmares about it, Yeah. I watched Halloween with her. I think I went snipe hunting with her. If you know what snipe hunting is,
Yep.
You know what snipe hunting is. You know that?
Yeah.
I think that's a Southern thing.
It is a Southern thing, yeah.
We're bringing it, and I think that's died. I don't know if like.
Yeah, I never have done it. I know what it is, and
I've went, but I wasn't
tricking them and all that.
Yeah, I wasn't the butt of the joke, but I've been with people.
Well, I think I forgot to add when we were talking about zombie movies. I think my favorite zombie movie is probably 28 Days Later. I think that was just a great movie. It kind of changed zombie movies because, like you were saying, like about the crazies, that there's like a rabidness to the zombies in that. There's there's a they're bloodthirsty. They can run. They are tearing at people. Where zombie movies before, zombies are very slow. Myers of Halloween movies, they'll get you eventually.
They're like,
there's so many of them, they're going to get you. 28 Days Later made them, and also made it not about being resurrected or coming back from the dead, but being infected. There was a virus that was causing it, and it's indicative of kind of our modern idea that we think climate change and all this stuff is eventually going to kind of collapse society, and people are just going to be nuts and killing each other.
I actually, that's one of those movies, because I always got like 28 Days Later and like I think the Butterfly Effect, where they came out at the same time and everyone was talking about them at the same time, or at least my mom was, I think.
Yeah.
And
those, Butterfly Effect.
I don't know, but for some reason I've always been
Ashton Kutcher.
Yeah, I've always. I mean, I watched the Butterfly Effect. That's a sad movie. I mean, that's a really sad movie. If you want to be melancholy, just watch that one. But
I'm very proud that I've never seen it.
It's a good movie. I'm telling you,
really?
it's a good movie, but it's like you got to be in the mood for that. But
yeah. So we've talked a lot about scary movies.
Yes.
Let's talk about Halloween real quickly. You have any Halloween traditions that your family does or that you do? Do you have a costume that you have planned for this year, or a favorite costume from the past? So I live a sad life sometimes. I love Halloween, but I'm a procrastinator. So sometimes I don't do it. Sometimes I don't have the money, but I do have a Halloween tradition. I do. Yep.
And I do have a favorite costume, and it's one that I wore when I was younger, and I think I have a picture of it on Facebook somewhere where I was a little kid, and I was in a Darth Vader costume. And
oh, nice.
That was probably the greatest year of my life, because I got to be the Dark Lord of all the children and got to whack them with my lightsaber. But no, I was a clown one time, and that was fun. But I rode a little bike. I was a child. I wasn't that creepy.
That sounds fucking creepy.
I wasn't running around.
Oh god.
But yeah.
Speaking of, wait, have you seen the trailer for the new Pet Sematary?
No, we should have talked about this, because Pet Sematary freaks the fuck out of me.
Yeah, I don't. It's one of the things that I'm frightened of when my daughter is a little older. I don't want her like getting under things. Because when that little boy comes back and he's like under something and he like slices his mom's tendon, I'm like, no. Oh, I don't like that.
No, but even
the animal coming back to life, I actually wouldn't mind that. Like, there's a lot of dogs and stuff. Even if they were mean, I'd be like, yeah, sure.
You got rabies. Just smack them. I don't know. I don't know. I don't even like hitting animals, but if that thing's trying to bite me, I'm just swat it. I don't know. Yeah. Unless it's like a rabid pit bull.
But if you'll remember in the movie, it protects the little girl. The cat does. I think it like still like loves her or something. It's the dad that it scratches.
Oh, that's it's been so many years since
but it is a scary movie.
Yeah. I mean, it's creepy. It's very creepy.
Yeah.
So the only one I have, it's not much of a Halloween tradition, but we all know the Hugh Jackman film where he plays Van Helsing is not a very good movie.
No.
But me and my sister have to watch it, because we like it because all the characters in there, all the actors act their ass off to do that role. The story's not that great. I give you that, but the scenes are very believable, and fight me over it, but that's what we believe. Like, it's fine, you know. Like, we don't care. The story is shit. It's like Frankenstein, and even I think it was even Comic Girl 19 said she thought that movie was shit, but she will defend I Frankenstein. But I'm defending both because I Frankenstein was pretty alright too. All the actors believed what they were doing. I believe both of them, but the stories are shit. I give you that. but it's just it's a tradition. Like I love that movie for what it is. It is a terrible movie, but I still enjoy it. It's fun. It's a fun movie. It's not, when I go into movies, it's not usually what I do with A Song of Ice and Fire. It's not picking apart stuff. And it usually takes people, hey, this doesn't make sense. And then I have to go back. I'm like, yeah, that doesn't make sense. Because I had someone do that with me with the new Infinity Wars movie, and they completely run the movie for me. Because I'm like, oh yeah, so why didn't Spider-Man hold his fist, Doctor Strange just do the portal and cut his arm off and get the thing off him? And then there was 10 other reasons, and I'm like, well, the reason I didn't catch that is because I wanted to enjoy the movie. I wasn't picking it apart. But now that you say it, it's ruined.
Yeah, that is annoying when people do that. Just go to the movies and enjoy the movie. And if you don't enjoy the movie, don't enjoy the movie. But we've turned into the rabid zombies that we've got to get on and either attack something or defend something sometimes. But yeah, Van Helsing, not that great, but I like that you just enjoy watching it. And so I think that's a fun tradition.
No, and I love it because it's like it was a new twist on the and same thing with Hansel and Gretel. Like, that's why I like the Hansel and Gretel movie.
Yeah, those are all very similar. Like
it's kind of action, comedy, horror.
Yeah.
And Slither, if you watch it, it's not very horror when you watch it. It's very there's a lot of comedy to it, and it's really cool. Like, but I think that's where I get into, like, when something's too serious and it fails as a horror, and there's no comedy or anything. I just reject it because it's like, okay, you tried to be too serious with the horror. It didn't really hit home with me. So then it just fails for me. Like, then it becomes cheesy. But if you want to make it cheesy, I don't know. We spent too much time on this.
My favorite costume probably is also when I was a kid. My cousin and I went as Mario and Luigi. That was fun because it was pretty. I think we had like I'm trying to think. There was something that may have been like store bought but most of it was pretty like homemade. Not homemade, but I had like a red shirt and he had a blue shirt, and we had like overalls. I think that's awesome. Like we just had like regular overalls and like little hat and the mustaches. That was what we bought like at a costume shop or whatever. I
would hope he'd buy the mustaches.
Yeah. I don't know where else you'd get a mustache. Like, my dad, like, all right, I'm gonna grow my beard for 3 weeks and then shave this so you can have it. No. Halloween traditions, I'm like you, like we usually watch a scary movie or a scary show. Last year I think I made Lindsay watch Monster Squad, which I think I've talked about before on the podcast. Monster Squad is like the low rent version of the Goonies, but it's what its title says, Monster Squad. Like they fight Dracula and the Wolfman and befriend Frankenstein's monster and the creature from the Black Lagoon. They fight him. Like it's if you haven't seen it, you probably enjoy it. It's just a fun kind of like wacky, stupid movie.
Yeah, it's probably like super cheesy, but it's
it's from the 80s.
Yeah,
you know, it's got boobs in it. It's got the 80s boobs. It's got
what does that mean?
Making well, you know how like every kind of like scary or comedy movie in the 80s, their girls' clothes came off. You know, they've got like the older kid that rides the bike.
So you got Josh Brolin. You got Josh Brolin.
Yeah, exactly. They have I can't remember this kid's name, but he's kind of like and he's the one that's like looking through the binoculars like, oh, this girl's taking her shirt off. So anyways, Monster Squad, fun movie. I would recommend it. But that's what we usually do. Where we live, we have hundreds of trick-or-treaters. So we'll probably, the first year we moved here, so we have West Virginia is pretty mountainous. Not Colorado mountainous, but it's called the Mountain State. But you know, a lot of hills and valleys. And so our development in Morgantown is kind of flat. It's got wide street, it's got sidewalks. And so what we do is we shut down entrance into our development, and people just like park all along the hillside, and their kids and their families walk through and get candy and everything. So the first year that we moved here, which would have been in 2014 when we moved into this development, in the span of like an hour and a half, we had 225 kids. It was insane. It was just so many people. And we eventually, like, once there was a break where you could like see the kids coming, but they weren't at your house, we literally ran inside and shut the garage because we were out of candy. So, you know, since then we've bought, you know, bags upon bags of candy, but that's great. Like you get to sit outside and drink hot chocolate and watch all the kids and families come by with these really neat costumes. There's a lot of people that, like this one girl was a jellyfish last year, and she had cut an umbrella and put it over her, and then she had the tendrils down. Like I appreciate like seeing kids go to these extremes with their costumes. I think it's pretty cool. Things will change a little bit this year. We're not really sure what we're going to do with Claire. She has a costume, but we're not sure if we're going to take her around or if she's just going to sit outside with us in her costume handing out candy. I mean, obviously she can't hand out candy, but she just sat there in a little wagon in her costume or something. I'm not sure. So those are our Halloween traditions and costumes.
I mean, that's awesome. Like I have no plans, you know. So
all right, so we've now talked about all of those scary movies we love, our traditions for Halloween, what we love about the holiday and everything. So let's finally get into some Game of Thrones and A Song of Ice and Fire discussion here as it relates to Halloween. We wanted to see if there was a similar tradition, a similar holiday that exists in Westeros, and the closest we can come up with is the Harvest Feast, as we said. And it's not really exact, correct?
It's not. No,
it's not a 1-to-1. You know, you don't have Arya dressing up as Nymeria and going castle to castle looking for candy and everything. And we think these three quotes make it sound like it's very similar to some of the traditions we have in Halloween. So, Brett, does Westeros have a tradition similar to Halloween?
Although there's not an exact Westerosi equivalent to Halloween that exists in this fantasy world, there might be one that's somewhat close, and that is the Harvest Feast, which is a celebration held in the Seven Kingdoms after the announcement of autumn by the Maesters of the Citadel. Now, at first glance, this may seem more like a Thanksgiving feast, but three quotes caught our eye. From A Game of Thrones, Sansa 3, Ned informs Arya and Sansa as they squabble that he is sending them back to Winterfell. Sansa thinks of how much she loves King's Landing and all the pageantry of the royal court. The tournament had been the most magical time of her whole life, and there was so much she had not seen yet. Harvest feasts and masked balls and mummer shows. From A Clash of Kings, Tyrion 6. Tyrion informs Cersei that Stannis has sailed from Dragonstone, which prompts Cersei to reply, "And yet you sit there grinning like a Harvest Day pumpkin." Much later, after all the sweets had been served and washed down with gallons of summer wine, the food was cleared and the tables shoved back against the walls to make room for the dancing. The music grew wilder, the drummers joined in, and Hother Umber brought forth a huge curved war horn banded in silver. When the singer reached the part in The Night That Ended, where the Night's Watch rode forth to meet the others in the battle for the dawn, he blew a blast that set all the dogs to barking. Now, mass balls and mummer shows kind of reminds me of Halloween costume parties, and that remark of Cersei to Tyrion makes us think of carving a face on a pumpkin.
Which implies that one of the traditions of Harvest Feast is to make cut a pumpkin to make it look like a face, make it look like it's grinning or scary or whatever. So that's pretty interesting. And back in the Sansa chapter that we just referenced, she also mentions mask balls, which obviously could be like a costume party. Although those are very traditional in fantasy stories that you see people wearing masks at a ball. But again, there's another reference to costumes in the story. So now in A Clash of Kings, Bran 3 is where we actually get to see the Harvest Feast. And that is when many of the lords and ladies that remain in the north come to Winterfell. And Bran thinks this to himself. Much later, after all the sweets had been served and washed down with gallons of summer wine, the food was cleared and the tables shoved back against the walls to make room for the dancing. The music grew wilder, the drummers joined in, and Hother Umber brought forth a huge curved war horn banded in silver. When the singer reached the part in The Night That Ended, where the Night's Watch rode forth to meet the others in the battle for the dawn, he blew a blast that set all the dogs to barking. Now that's important again that we get to see the feast itself, but we're going to talk just in a minute about what that song could mean and the imagery of the others as the evil in A Song of Ice and Fire. Now the song The Night That Ended, which tells the story of the defeat of the others, which again is the evil that scares children in their beds and haunts the histories of the North. It's also literally an example of the forces of life overcoming the forces of death. And metaphorically, it's about the end of winter and the beginning of spring and summer. The Harvest Feast is, of course, associated with food, and that's important because nutrition and supplies are vital to surviving the cold, surviving the winter. So that's why The Night That Ended in this tale of good versus evil is probably sung with Harvest Feast celebrations. Now, just a little bit of real world history about Halloween. So Halloween literally means All Hallows Eve. It was a holy evening in Christian traditions and is a celebration on the eve of All Hallows or All Saints Day. And it is the time in the year to remember the dead, including the saints, martyrs, and all the faithful departed. And that sounds really similar to The Night That Ended. You know, the Northerners, Westeros, is probably singing that song, remembering all those people. Yeah, all those people who died fighting the others.
Okay.
And then finally, two other real world parallels is the Roman feast of Pomona who is the goddess of fruits and seeds, and then the Celtic festival of Samhain, which in Old Irish means summer's end. So again, harvest feast, Halloween, all of this is very parallel. All right, so let's talk about some creatures, monsters, events, characters in George's work that have a parallel in some scary movies or Halloween traditions. So the first one that immediately jumped out to me was Danelle Lawston. And she definitely has the vibes of Vlad the Impaler or Count Dracula and Elizabeth Bathory, the Blood Countess, in, I think, maybe Romania or Hungary. But there are those stories told about her that she bathes in blood, that she kidnaps the children around Harrenhal and kills them and drinks their blood and bathes in it. So I think that's a pretty interesting little parallel that George put into his work. What's it?
Well, I mean, and then you get maybe the bolt-on type thing on Bruce. So.
Yeah, the bolt-on theory always, which I think is just kind of out there, but I think
it's very theory. Out there. But I do like it. But yeah, it is fun, and I like it because it's Halloween. So let's do it.
Right?
Let's
exactly.
Cover it.
Well, I was gonna say, it's not to me really a parallel to vampires. Like a lot of people talk about it in the context of vampires. It's more like a skin changer. Like, yes. He's able to take the life force or take the skin or whatever of the people that they flayed or killed and kind of have long life. Yeah. So that to me is always kind of a skin changer. Another parallel, whites equaling zombies. I mean, I think that's a pretty easy parallel to make because they are literally the dead, resurrected, reanimated.
Like the Boltons are kind of a reaction to the Starks. So if you take the Starks, they're not a direct parallel to werewolves. But then you have the Boltons trying to do the, possess the power of the gods type thing. So they start flaying men. And that's speculation, but, it's like the Prometheus type thing where they're trying to be what the Starks are. So they start flaying men to become something else. So it could be like a Prometheus type thing.
I like the Starks and the Boltons being in opposition to each other.
Well, they definitely are. And then there's
they definitely are. But I mean, in the context of one kind of representing, the warg werewolf aspect, and then the other one representing like the immortality, skin changing vampire or whatever parallel. Yeah. So this is a favorite story of mine, and you brought it up. It's the parallel between Yin and the Lost Colony of Roanoke. So I really like the story of the Lost Colony of Roanoke, but let's just talk about Yin and then we'll compare it to the Lost Colony. So
okay, yeah,
the origins of Yin are a great enigma that have puzzled maesters and other scholars in Planetos. And like the toadstone of the Isle of Toads, Yin is built entirely of oily black stone in blocks so large it would have required a dozen elephants to move them. Yin has remained in desolation for many thousands of years, yet the jungle surrounding it has scarce touched it. Every attempt to settle it has ended in horror. During the years spent in Sithorios by some of Nymeria's 10,000 ships, the Roinar settled in Yin, where they had to contend with constant attacks from brindled ghouls from the jungle. At some point, a boat was sent from Zamatar to Yin, only to find that all people had abruptly vanished from the city. According to the tales, Nymeria called it a city so evil that even the jungle will not enter.
So something I've never caught: brindled ghouls.
Yeah,
not brindled men.
I was gonna say, what does that mean?
Yeah.
You know, because you kind of think, I would say it's kind of like apes, you know, baboons, something like that. Like,
you would think that, but there's already a common knowledge of the brindled men that everyone knows, but ghouls, like maybe grayscales, right. Yeah, or grayscale or something.
Yeah, that's possible.
I don't know,
and
like
especially with the oily black stone, that, you know, the things won't grow around there. That, you know, that kind of seems like the oily black stone is poisonous in some way.
Yeah.
But let's talk about its now. Obviously, the city of Yin is this huge settlement, an ancient city, an ancient fortress. If you've ever been to the location of the lost colony of Roanoke, you're in for a surprise, because there's not shit there. It's literally, I mean, I think my house is bigger than this little fort. It's, I mean, you know, obviously they didn't have huge settlements back then when they were trying to start a colony. But here's the story, and thank you so much for picking this one out, because this is one of my favorite.
Yeah, I know. This one always freaked me out. So
it freaks me out, right? Because you just don't know what happened.
Yeah.
So it's 1585. The English, I think it's Sir Walter Raleigh, commissions a expedition to the New World, and this would have been in what is modern day North Carolina. Now, what's interesting about this is there were actually 2 colonies that went missing. So they try to set up one colony. It fails. They return to England. They try to set up another colony. The people abandon it. They go back to England. So the famous one is the 3rd colony. So they, I think it's about 115 settlers at the time, leave England in 1585. They come to the New World. Or actually, maybe at 1587. Anyways, somewhere through there. They come to modern day North Carolina, and if you've ever been to the Outer Banks of North Carolina, which is a long set of barrier islands, inside beyond those islands is an island that they eventually call Roanoke Island. That's where the colony would have been, and that's between the Outer Banks and mainland North Carolina. So it was this large kind of squat island in the bay that would have been sort of sheltered from hurricanes and storms and everything, and also would have been a more defensible position against Spanish galleons that hugged the coast coming from the Caribbean. And that's important because kind of south of the Chesapeake Bay, the Spanish had a lot of control of the seas to the Caribbean. So these settlers go there. There is a governor appointed. His name is John White. He actually has a granddaughter born in the settlement. She becomes the first English child born in America. Well, they run out of supplies. They know they're going to run out of supplies, and they, basically demand John White to return to England. Well, John White then has years of seriously bad luck. It takes him forever to return to England on that voyage. When he does get to England, all of the shipping is stopped by Elizabeth I. So we're going that far back in history, because the Spanish Armada is on its way to invade England. After the Spanish Armada is destroyed at sea by a massive storm and England's smaller fleet, John White then spends the next 2 or 3 years trying to raise an expedition to return to the colony. He does so, raise one expedition, but they're attacked by French privateers, and they have to turn back to England. He then, the next year, finally sails for Roanoke. So this is about 3 years later. And when he returns to the Roanoke colony, no one's there. They're all gone. And the only thing that is left is the word Croatoan has been carved into a post, a wooden post on the fort. Now, this was supposed to happen. If they were going somewhere, they were to write this word into a tree. They did it into a post. And if they were leaving under duress, if there was a threat that was forcing them to leave, they were to leave a specific type of cross in the same piece of wood. They did not do that. So John White thought, okay, they've left. They've gone somewhere else. And actually, Croatoan is the name of both a local Indian tribe and also what's modern day Hatteras Island, which is one of the barrier islands of the Outer Banks that's further south. Well, unfortunate for John White, he tries to go south to search for the colonists, but a massive storm hits the Outer Banks, and the captain of the current expedition won't let him go. So here he is, maybe 50 miles from his family. He is forced to return to England, and he never returns to the New World again. He dies in Ireland on an estate, never knowing what happened to his daughter, his son-in-law, and his granddaughter.
So you're saying there was the answer right there, but he
could have been, but the problem is that archaeologists, there's no definitive proof of what happened to them. There's multiple theories. There were very many hostile Native American tribes in the region.
Yeah.
They could have killed them, but why did they carve the word, and why didn't they put the cross, which they were supposed to mark if they were being attacked or threatened?
Yes.
They could have been attacked while they were traveling.
Well, and you would think if you were hostile, you didn't want anybody to find you, you wouldn't leave a trace. And they definitely could have done that.
Right.
I would think.
Some people believe that they did make it to that Croatoan island because they found some relics there. Actually, they found a ring, a signet ring, which had a lion in it. Talk about Game of Thrones, but it had a lion in it, and that is reported to be one of the gentlemen who was one of the colonists was from a family that their heraldry was a lion, and that was found many, many years after, somewhere there. But that's it. That's all that's really been found. So the theories are: did they starve to death? They were running out of supplies. Were they captured or killed by Native Americans? Did they assimilate into local Native American tribes? They may have gone for help from local Native American tribes, and because the expedition never returned, they just assimilated into the tribes. And we know there was a lot of intermarrying and intermingling of white European settlers and Native Americans. So it's just fascinating that what happened to him. And you're right, it's kind of creepy. It's really been made to be a really kind of creepy story that people tell themselves.
Well, the thing is, it was creepy before, but now it's kind of like it's eerie, but like you gave a backstory, and they actually left that island, or you know,
they could have.
They could.
I mean, they definitely left that fort, right?
But you definitely like gave a explanation of why they would have carved something into a tree. It wasn't just an eerie carving. It could have. They definitely did it because, like, who else would have done it? You know, the natives around there wouldn't have known to do.
They would have written in English. That's right.
Yeah, and I don't know. Like, I don't know. Like, you've definitely given some like great points in that.
I think what's even like more tragic is the fact that guy never knew. Like,
yeah, and like, why would I don't know.
He was potentially 50 miles away from where they could have been. Of course, you know, maybe he wouldn't have found anything, but just the not knowing and going back and never returning to the new world. And you know, I read a quote from him that he said, I have to leave it up to God that they were safe and they survived somehow. I'm like, no, that's
well,
I mean,
even still, you know, Cortez slaughtered them all. Probably.
Well, that's another possibility that you know, they could have been captured by the Spanish.
Yeah, which is, you know, if they went down there, I mean, that's a good probability. I mean, it's a probability.
Yeah, because the Spanish kind of hugged. If you look at a map of the coast, the Spanish galleys actually ran very close to the Outer Banks. As they were heading back to Spain. And actually on the Outer Banks, there are a bunch of wild horses, and they're all direct descendants of Spanish horses, Spanish galleons that would have crashed and sank, and some of these horses swam to shore.
Oh,
and so we took a couple of years ago, we took a tour near Corolla, which is at the very top of the Outer Banks of these wild horses, and they just kind of live in the dunes and run around, and you know, have been there for 400 years, 300 years, something like that. The final parallel is pretty obvious, but it's a really fun one. It's the fact that Qyburn is Dr. Frankenstein, and Sir Robert Strong is Frankenstein's monster. I mean, I think that's you know, we have no idea what Qyburn is doing down in those dungeons, and we don't know what power he has, where he's learned this, but he's reanimating people, and potentially using body parts from various people he's taken prisoner, or Cersei has given to him, and stuck him on to Robert Strong.
Well, we don't know for sure if he's reanimating Robert Strong, so we got to take a couple things into account. Did the mountain die, or is Qyburn prolonging his life? And then did he actually cut the mountain's head off? Either way, Qyburn's doing some weird shit in that basement. Regardless,
he sure is.
Like, I mean, Cersei's just like, yeah, take these, yeah, take her, take him, take. Yeah, Bronn didn't kill, or Bronn's husband didn't succeed. Yeah, just take her into the basement. Oh, we can't get her back because Qyburn says, oh, she can't come back out. You know, and then she's like, okay, well, we'll forget about her because we can't bring her back out. And it's kind of it's weirdly parallel to, and I just made that word up, to Theon, because that's kind of what happened with Roose and Ramsay. Like Theon went to this basement, and then he, like, Roose is trying to he's trying to like retrieve Theon out of that, and Theon's all fucked up because of Ramsay, and he can't. You know what I mean? Like
they changed him down there.
Yeah, but he's missing fingers and stuff, and then Cersei can't bring what is it? Danelle Lawston?
Felice Stoke.
Felice. She, I don't even want to know what happened to her. I just want her to stay down there because I don't want to know, but I don't know.
Well, and the fact that like Cersei at times could also hear them screaming, right?
Yes. And I just don't even, and then the whole Blue Bard thing. Oh.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I mean, that's a horror. I mean, Qyburn is like the horror movie for me for Song of Ice and Fire. Like, I don't want to know what he's doing, and then like the whole nipple cutting off, and then like taking out the eye of the Blue Bard. Like, it's really fucked up, and like
yeah.
Like,
I think you by talking about Qyburn and the Black Sails, you provide us with a great transition here to talk about those scary moments and stories and characters and events in A Song of Ice and Fire and Game of Thrones. So you've said a lot about Qyburn and the Black Sails. Well, what else about that freaks you out?
Well, so
everything.
I mean, yeah. I mean, Varys was doing stuff down there. He was cutting children's tongues off, sneaking around down there. But then, who before him? You got Bloodraven. What was Bloodraven doing down there?
Right, like, Maegor the Cruel. All kinds of people down there doing things.
Yeah. I mean, you got all kinds of people, but you got people in the story. Like, I mean, Varys was cutting tongues off, but I mean, was he doing it? Like, what was he doing? I don't know. I mean, there's just there's so much going on there. I mean, like, you don't know who was doing what. I mean, I couldn't imagine like Baelor using that, but somebody might have been,
Yeah.
Even if he didn't know. I don't know. I mean, it's the Halloween episode, so we gotta, speculate, like, what, was Gollum down there, getting experimented on by whoever, you don't know.
Yeah, by Sauron's orcs.
Yeah, and then Sauron's eye was gleaming, right in, I don't know, to his butthole. I don't know, but we don't know.
All right, so we'll alternate a little here. We'll go back and forth on a few. So my first one is the birth of the Shadow Baby. And to me, the scarier moment of the birth of the Shadow Baby occurs in the show. Yes, it's a frightening moment in the books, and it comes in Clash of Kings, Stavros 2. The book introduces the concept of shadow binding and, the shadow assassin. It's introduced when Tywin talks to Tyrion about the fact that Stannis has a shadow binder from Ashai in his service. It's talked about at the Small Council when Varys has reported that Selyse Baratheon has taken up with a red priestess. And then obviously we see Melisandre in that prologue from Crescent's point of view, drink poison and survive. And we get a very ominous introduction to her because Crescent fears her. So kind of in George's 3-step way, the concept is introduced, the character is introduced, her powers are revealed. And that's what happens in the chapter with the shadow baby that, you know, Davos smuggles her under the walls of Storm's End, and Melisandre keeps asking, are we beneath, you know, are we beneath the castle? Are we inside the walls? Because there's magic in the walls. And then obviously she then squats down and is pregnant and begins to birth this. But in the show, there's nothing before. Yes, you know, Melisandre has some type of power, you know, whether she has some power to stop poison or she has slowly become immune to it by drinking it, like some people do with poison. But it's such a gut punch when Davos is kind of like looking at those the gate and the gate under Storm's End, and he can't get through, and he turns around and she just unveils herself to be pregnant, and you're like, what the fuck? Yeah. And then she squats down on the ground and begins pushing, and then the light, the lantern that Davos is carrying, intensifies. So this kind of, you know, dark cavern with the water swishing all of a sudden is bright, and that really eerie warrior of light music swells, and, you know, these long dark tendrils reach out, and this thing takes its first breath, and then you're just like, I mean, I remember watching it and be like, what the fuck just happened? Did someone just give birth to a black goo?
Well,
and then obviously you figure out what it is when it kills Renly.
Just so you know, I'm editing some Halloween music over that story because that was good. I was like, okay, I'm not gonna interrupt because this is really good. Like, I don't want to like spoil it because it was good. Like, it's great. I'm putting Halloween music over it.
All right. It's just, to me, the show scene was just more powerful. Again, it just kind of came out of nowhere. Now, at that point, I hadn't read A Clash of Kings. Yeah. So I had no idea. But just that and so if I had, you know, read the chapter first, you know, maybe I would have had a similar reaction that Melisandre is birthing this shadow baby. But man, in the show, it was just so visceral, so scary when she turns around and she's pregnant.
Well, and in the show, they make that because there's two incidences that happen in the books,
right?
But is combined into one. They kind of make it seem the same.
Exactly.
The one, Stannis is asleep throughout it, and there's sort of like a ghost that happens, and then Melisandre, I'm not sure what happens, but there's the situation is very different for each of them, because Stannis has a lot of guilt about Renly dying because he remembers Renly dying. He sees it, and then I think Catelyn sees his face, and I think that's more prominent in the show, but Stannis doesn't know it at first. Right. He thinks about it later. Now, the shadow baby thing is, I don't know, whatever the fuck. But Stannis doesn't know any... I mean, he might know about it, but he doesn't have any, like, guilt about it because he doesn't know about it. So it's two separate incidences, and it's two different ways of, what a shadow binder would do, because it's almost like Melisandre ripped Stannis's consciousness out of his body while he's asleep and had him go assassinate Melisandre in one aspect, whereas the second one was something else. That's like she took his seed with shadow binding or something and produced a evil baby. I don't know, and like fucking killed.
Well, I always took it as the same thing. Like that in the books, it's I'd have to go back and read the Catelyn chapter where it occurs to see how it's described and then see how Davos describes it. I mean, you might be right that it's different. It might be two powers she's exhibiting, but to me, again, the reveal in that moment when she's birthing the baby in Davos 2, that's when you realize, oh, this is what came into that tent and killed Renly, and this is what Stannis is now remembering happened. Yeah, you're right that conscience, and does he have the conscience of Courtney Penrose's murder after?
Yes,
he never says it.
Yeah, like he could not care as much about that, and he thinks about his brother, but it's very, and it could be George's fault. Like, he just didn't think it was weird that, maybe, but Courtney Penrose, like, he should be something that's on Stannis's mind. I don't think Stannis is without a conscience. Like, I think he cares about what he's doing, but if you step in his path, he's going to step on you if he can.
Right.
If he thinks you're wrong. Like, I mean, obviously Davos steps directly in his path and says you're wrong, and he understands that because but like Courtney Penrose did that too, and then
right.
I don't know if that was something, because sometimes we take George, he's kind of like a he pays attention to every detail, so we have to pay attention to every detail, and then when we pick apart those details, he's like, wait a minute, you're doing it too much. Yeah. It's like, well, you can't blame us, George.
Right.
But so we don't know. So no one's ever asked. But those two situations are very different. So
again, I just wonder if one is because it's related by Stannis, and the other one is you get to actually see it being birthed. I just don't know.
That's something we
because
have to ask
Melisandre
George,
could have birthed that shadow baby in Senate to kill Renly because they were obviously outside the walls of Storm's End. The exact reason that we really get to see it under Storm's End is she's got to get inside the walls. She's got to get beneath the castle in order to send it. But that's an interesting thought you had, that does Stannis have the same memory of the Courtney Penrose one, or perhaps at that point he realizes what happened with Renly,
and it could be that
and he's saying, okay, do that for this one too, I'm fine with it. So mentally he's not frustrated by it because he now realizes what she's able to do.
And I hate to say it, but that would open up the Shireen burning thing.
That's your next choice. Go ahead and talk about that moment.
Yes, and it's more the show version, because I think that's more of a horror story for a child. Like, oh yeah, my parents want to they're so desperate for a warmer climate, they're gonna burn me alive. And like, think about it, as a child, like being scared your parents are going to burn you. She never thought that, but that's what became of little Shireen in this. And that is a terrible, scary story. And that's really all there is to it. I think there'll be more to it when we find out. But just for Stannis to burn her for a a clearer sky, during winter.
Right. And
that's
improving the weather.
Yes, that's fucking terrible. And that's like the worst fate you can have, being a little child and your dad saying, I love you and I really care about you, but we're going to take you out to the stake and we're going to burn you alive. Like, that whole scene was, it was horrific.
Yeah.
And I really don't think that's the situation, but that was a horrific situation.
Yeah.
And a lot of people have problems with it.
Oh, definitely. I mean, it's hard to see an innocent child, nonetheless, being burned alive and in such pain. And you know, I'm a big fan of Stannis, and so I think that it's going to go down significantly different in the books.
I mean, I think that too, but
it's not just bad weather that he's trying to alleviate. It's the fact his men are dying, they're starving, the horses are dying, they're starving. Like he needs to get his force moving along. But the moment you make that decision is the moment you doom yourself, because your men are going to only follow you so far, and sitting there and watching your daughter be burned alive is just horrific. Man, yeah, it's tough. I mean, just hearing her scream and it's also frustrating as again a fan of Stannis that
I know
this is the reason you give up your heir and all that. It's I mean, it made narrative sense. I get it, but it was rough.
Yes, and that show only because I think it could go ultimately the same way in the books, but I think he's gonna know what he's sacrificing. He's gonna sacrifice his heir. He's gonna sacrifice everything. He'll probably join the Night's Watch, but I think it's not gonna be, like everyone says, like. He's gonna join the Night's Watch probably. He's gonna, because he may figure out like John's true parentage and be like, okay, I don't have a claim, and I don't know, like I don't know, but I don't think it's gonna be. Yeah, obviously it's not gonna be for that, and it may not be that. Like he may not be that tragic. But if you take the the Agamemnon type thing, like Robert and him kind of go parallel, with that, where Bride got stolen and then the other one had and then I don't know.
Yeah.
But
all right, so my next one would be the others attacking the fist of the first men. And that comes from A Storm of Swords, Samwell 1, and Season 2, Episode 10, Valar Morghulis, and Season 3, Episode 1, Valar Dohaeris. Now, to me, both scenes, both in the books and the show, were pretty good. I mean,
yes, yeah.
I definitely watched the show scene first. And it was a great cliffhanger to season 2, that the others were coming and attacking. But just that image of Sam struggling through the snow. I love the opening line of the chapter, sobbing. Sam took another step. He's afraid, but he still has this will to go on to try and get away. But that image of the whites coming out of the snow, and those others coming on the dead horses, and Sam just kind of like looking up slowly, and that other looks down at him and doesn't even really care.
It's Sam has that, what John said, he had a queer sort of courage.
Yeah,
because he just he admits he's a coward, but it goes back to what Eddard said to Bran in the first or the second, well, technically the first chapter. You cannot be brave if you're not afraid. But I think that perfectly describes Sam. That's why Sam met Bran. I think that's why they meet. That's why I think they were meant. Obviously, I think they had a purpose to meet. I think George always had something.
Had that meeting.
Yeah, I think that's why. Yeah, they always have something going on.
And there's always horror themes with them, both of them.
Oh yeah, yeah. They both are scared of the bump in the night. Okay, what's your next choice?
The Red Wedding and the Frey Pies. Both of those are fucking horrific. Because there's nothing worse than dying at your wedding, right? But you got Manderley, and he's like, here, singing the Rat Cook. And the Rat Cook is a horrific story
right
by itself. And poor Fat Walda is eating her. She did nothing wrong, She did nothing wrong, but she's eating her cousins. She was afraid.
She was afraid. First of all, she squeals while Roose Bolton fucks her. So,
but she did nothing wrong. I mean, she's just trying to please her man. Like as far as she was raised a proper lady, and
I'm sure
what exactly what Catelyn talked about. Catelyn did her thing, and what people blame Sansa for, she's complacent and all this stuff. She just thought she was being good. She thought she was doing the right thing by being
right.
Maybe Fat Walda was too, but I mean, I don't know. I mean, she had Walder Frey as a great grandpa. I don't know.
I think so. Yeah.
Grandpa or great grandpa, but that's not the grandpa I would want.
No.
Like Jesus Christ. No.
All right. So my last choice is Bran and company arriving at the Three-Eyed Crow's cave.
Yes.
Now the show scene was good, but it definitely didn't have the terror and the visceral cold that you could kind of feel that the companions were experiencing. So I would definitely recommend the book scene, which occurs, I think in Bran 2 of A Dance with Dragons. Like many chapters in A Song of Ice and Fire, you're literally dropped into the action. And it opens with Bran recounting their immediate travel to get there, but then Cold Hands has that line that he says they're here. He can smell the others on the wind, and they are deep in the haunted forest. There are these twisted, gnarled, ice-covered branches of trees surrounding them, and they're literally looking up at a mountain of snowdrifts that they've got to climb to get to the sinkhole to enter the Three-Eyed Crow's cave. And it's just eerie. Summer is kind of snarling and snapping at the wind, which is interesting in the context of the segment that George released on Fire and Blood, where Silverwing is snarling and snapping at the wall. And so Summer is sensing something. The cold is making it hard to breathe. They're tired. They're wet. They're soaked through to the bone, basically.
Yeah, so they're basically freezing.
Right, they're freezing to death. They're hungry, and then these hands are shooting up out of the snow and grabbing them. And then all of a sudden, you get this immense magical scene where all of a sudden fire starts erupting around them, and the children of the forest emerge and begin to destroy some whites. But then it gets even creepier because they enter the cave, and the way it's described about Bloodraven, he's got his clothes are just rotten and falling off. He's got roots literally coming out of his thigh, going into his shoulder. He's got I forgot about this. He has mushrooms growing on his head.
Yes. It's the thought.
One
it's
of
the thing of horrors.
One of the roots is going through his eye. He's obviously got the blood stain that's a signature of Blood Raven, and he's just withered and just kind of limp there, and it's just, that's creepy too, the way he's described.
It's how you clean up when family comes to your house.
Yeah,
like Blood Raven didn't do it. Like he let it all hang out.
He can't do it. I mean, he can't even move. He's just like,
those fucking children of the forest could have done it. All right, but they're lazy ass children. All right.
Yeah, they're like, this place used to be pristine before the men came and killed everything.
Yeah, we're fucking done. Y'all wiped everything out. We're just hanging out around him. All right, he seems to be, but we're not doing anything till you do something.
Right.
I don't know, but it's just that's the stuff of nightmares. Well, thanks for listening. You can find us on Facebook, and you can follow us on Twitter at planetospodcast. You can listen to us on iTunes, SoundCloud, Google Play, YouTube, and any other platform that supports the RSS feed. We're also, you can find us on Instagram. But please rate us, review us, just leave a review. I mean, and if you don't want to, that's fine, but it helps us out. You can email us at planetospodcast@gmail.com if you have any questions or ideas, or you can just hit us up on Twitter or Facebook or Facebook message from our Facebook page. Also, stick around for our very special twow surprise discussion with some awesome updates. That'll be after this song plays and ends. Also, links to all the music will be in the description of this video. But I've been one of your hosts, Brett.
And I've been your other host, Travis. GRRM Planetos.
All right, so let's talk about Brendan Fish's his breakthrough.
So Brett, there seems to be some, I don't know if we'd call it breaking news, but B-Fish put out a tweet. Let's talk a little bit about it. Okay, so we've got a bit of breaking news. I think we can call it that.
Yes.
It's better than most of the breaking news on Twitter. So friend of the podcast, a guy who I guess is a luminary.
I thought he was an enemy, though. I thought he.
We are in a state of war. That is true.
But we are fans. We are Standermen, I guess.
Standard. That's right. That's the common bond. So, a few hours ago, as we record, and let's see, I don't even know what this is, a Friday night that we're recording this.
Yes.
B-Fish retweeted someone, and I'm going to read B-Fish's tweet, and then I'm going to read the tweet that he retweeted. Oh, B-Fish asks, a cover for a new GRRM book that you won't reveal. And you're the cover artist for A Song of Ice and Fire. And it's not Fire and Blood Volume 1, ladies and gentlemen. And so the tweet that B-Fish retweeted comes from Enrique Coraminas. And Enrique says that, and this is translated via Microsoft translating whatever on Twitter. It says, that stays between us, but I just finished a cover book of At GRRM Speaking. So he tags George's official Twitter account in this, and makes the comment that he is has just finished a cover for a new book by GRRM, not Fire and Blood. And if it's not Fire and Blood, let's hope it's not another Wild Cards book that he's
I don't think that yeah
about that.
But my only question is, I have a main question, is if it's between them, why did he tag Brendan B. Fish to let this spoiler go free? And second, is this guy tied to anything? I don't know this guy, but I mean those are my two, like, I don't know, should I believe it?
So let's follow some of the evidence here. So he does not tag Brendan B. Fish.
Oh, okay.
He tags George's official Twitter in his post. Now, I've just gone to his profile, and his profile says artist, illustrator, Revolution Can Be Fun, A Song of Ice and Fire, cover artist, and his location is Spain. Now, what's interesting here is, so listen to who follows Enrique, and I think two things are very interesting here. One, Elio and Linda follow him, and of course, Elio and Linda are
okay. All right.
Yeah. So that's a big one. And then he's also followed by Guillermo del Toro. So this is a... All
right, I'm already liking it. I'm already liking it.
A legitimate guy. Now, I would assume B-Fish, someone either retweeted this gentleman that B-Fish saw, or B-Fish, follows or gets a notification if George is ever tagged in anyone. So that would be my guess of how he saw it. Of course, there's 100 retweets of the gentleman's tweet. So this could be good news. We don't think there's anything else in the pipeline of George's books. I mean, again, he's saying it's not Fire and Blood, and he is a Song of Ice and Fire cover artist. So he's done works in Spain before for George's material. So we don't want to get our hopes up, right? That's something that
I don't, but
we frequently do.
We do, but this is not. I feel like this is not information that has been thrown out there before, and I feel like a lot of people take, like they want to like rehash old stuff, but this is it's 2018. George has not released the book yet. He's not teasing any fucking body at this point with twow. If you know what I mean, like he when he was releasing Fire and Blood, he pretty much made it clear it's not twow, you know. And we have this artist coming out saying, you know, this, and now I don't know, like I think the whole fandom thinks, you know, that's very tied into it. I don't know, I'm super excited right now if you can't tell, but the thing is, we all think it's coming out in 2019. If it's announced next month, it's still coming out in 2019, you know, so that would line up. If whatever this person says does not come to fruition, it's still, you know, it still could come out in 2019. You know, we don't know, but it's sounding legit. It's sounding very legit. So
I feel like someone this official tweeting something like this could jeopardize their future as an artist, as an illustrator, especially for George's work, but because the material and George is so, you know, huge, that could jeopardize future work, not just this. So again, we don't want to get our hopes up, but this is very interesting. Now, some of the chatter on Facebook, I've noticed some people are saying, yeah, I heard the rumor that it was coming out in 2019. That's what people speculated. Yeah, we've heard the rumor in the past few months that it was currently being translated into, you know, the various languages and countries that it's going to be a huge seller. And we know that Spain is a huge market for these books and for the TV show. They have a rabid fan base in Spain. So that's going to be one of the first markets that will get it along with the American and other European and Australian and, you know, everywhere. This is going to be a huge book, but they're going to make sure that Spain is one of the first that gets it, I would think.
Yeah, and I just, I don't see why. I would think Brendan B. Fish screened that person enough to retweet it. So I trust in him to.
Yeah, he you know, B. Fish has a nature about him on social media. This, while he's kind of poking a little bit with his tweet here, this is a more mundane response. He's kind of throwing it out there to people. He's kind of saying, this is very interesting. Why is this person who seems to be very legitimate saying this? You know, I think he probably believes it. I mean, we'll know soon when he makes some comments on his podcast.
I think he definitely believes it. I really don't think he would share that and like blow up social media right now in the fandom, you know.
Right.
Because I mean, he's a troll, but he's not that. He's not that kind of troll. Like
he's our troll.
Yeah, like he likes to poke fun, but he doesn't like to like blow up social media just because of it. You know, you know, I don't know. He's a cool guy.
Yeah,
I don't know.